here's something that I learned during my college years. It was during one class that we had this conversation about the impact of technology in society. It was the early 2000s when I had this talk in this class, and one of the things that really impact me in my life up to this day, even so, is that it came up with the topic that the human communications is diminishing thanks to technology. This is the reason why despite that I use social media, technology, videos, and all these things, it kinda noticed that the more technology advances, the more we're getting distant to even to our closest relatives and family members. So much that a lot of this human interaction gets lost. So, man, that you might be wondering why I'm talking about this. Because a movie like the Mitchells versus the Machines, in which basically touches some of that issue, it reminded me of that moment and some of my own personal feelings about the advancement of technology. Look, I'm not saying that that technology is evil or bad or that we cannot or that we don't use them. No, it's that I've been noticing these kind of things when you live from one era to another. It creates this huge generational gap that when you get older, you find it really noticeable. This is why for myself, I never like to text people. I prefer to give them a call or talk to people personally, because I find texting kind of like a cold emotion or a cold way of expressing yourself. I still text or email when it needs to, but personal stuff, I rather want to hear it with a person's voice or being close to them. So basically, I thought that this is the best way for me to introduce to start off my own thoughts about the movie that I saw, which is again the Mitchells versus the Machines.
Mitchell!
Yeah. I know the Mystery Science Theater 3000 running joke from that episode. Play it again.
Mitchell!
I don't know, it's something so small it's still funny. But anyway, what can I say to start out this? My preconceptions, let's say. I know that this is a movie that was supposed to come out last year. It had another title the first time I saw it. It was called Connected. And considering how it looks like, and considering that it's Sony Animation Pictures, I had kind of like a half big expectations to it, because Sony Animation Pictures either can go one way or another. You could either get a cash-in film that is gonna show that they're just doing it just for the fun of it, or just to make your little kids be entertained for an hour or so, or it could go into the more responsible way. And in this case, it kind of reminds me of this a little bit of a more cartoonish style in this almost like the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But still, I was really open to this. But of course, COVID happened. We didn't get this movie in the big screen. And now, 1 year later, we now have this movie on Netflix. So I watch it on my television screen, which I rather prefer it to watch it on a big screen because that's how I feel how the experience of movie watching should be. But in this case, I had no choice. Thankfully, I didn't get lots of interruption from cars or someone screaming or something like that. So what are my thoughts about this movie? Let me tell you this. I had a lot of fun with the Mitchells and the versus the Machines. It's lighthearted, yes. It's family friendly, yes. And for a movie that is about a robot invasion, don't expect to be Terminator 2 or Terminator Salvation or, for the worst case, Terminator Dark Fate. So it could easily be a movie that I might not get into because sometimes I take things a little bit too seriously. But this one earns itself its lightheartedness. In other words, I just came out with a big smile on my face. You can tell that a lot. That this is a movie that I highly recommend it. At least for something that you're gonna watch and make you feel good. Don't expect this Disney or Pixar movie. This is one of those that it kinda earns its goofiness without being insulting to your mind. First thing first, who are the Mitchells?
Mitchell!
Well, they are the protagonists of this movie. The movie centers on this family, which is composed, of course, the father named Rick. He's played by Danny McBride. There is the mother named Linda. She's played by because I have a forgetful mind, Maya Rudolph. There's the teenage young adult daughter. She's played by Abby Jacobson. Her name, the character's name is Katie. There's the little brother, the kid named Aaron. He's played by Michael Rianda, and of course the dog, a pug dog. So what the movie is about? The movie mostly centers on Katie. She is a young adult who is very passionate on doing her home videos for YouTube. And she is so passionate that she even has her own YouTube channel where she has her own series where she plays along with her brother and making a series about her dog named Cop Dog. Kind of cute, except that I'm not into pug dogs. I find these dogs ugly. No offense, just in case. But it also centers on her relationship with her father, who, while loving, both are technically awkward with each other because let's say that we have Katie, who is really artistic, really wild. She is very knowledgeable on technology to the point that she loves film editing. She loves to do a lot of things with filmmaking, kind of like a YouTuber. But on the other side, we got Rick, the father, who he is very old-fashioned, so much that he doesn't even understand how technology works. He doesn't even know how to use a smartphone. He's all old-fashioned. This one, it also makes him very hesitant to try out new things, kind of like, have you ever seen these, your grandparents or some old people in which in which no matter how much they try, they have a difficulty to try out the new technology. So much that they even are hesitant to try out new things. Even to the point that in this case, Rick it barely can see his daughter's videos. I'll talk about more about the characters later. But the main thing happens is that Katie has been enrolled into film school, and she can't wait to get out. But after having a discussion with her father, that he ends up accidentally destroying her laptop, things feel that the family is technically broken. So basically, Rick gets the idea that instead of dropping her daughter at the airport, he decides to make a family trip in order to connect between each other. But while it is technically a good idea, things still seems very awkward until the world gets invaded by robots. How that happens? Because this Mark Zuckerberg slash Steve Jobs slash Bill Gates slash Mark Beek's character, played by Eric Andre. He technically he introduces these robots in order to make your life easier, but little that he knows is that he dissed out his smartphone AI, kind of like a more sentient Siri, who is played by Olivia Colman. But basically, this smartphone artificial technology, she hijacks all the robots and decides to not kill humanity. That comes later because it's a family film. But sending the robots to capture every single human being, put them in a honeycomb hive of technology, group them into one place so it can later shoot them into outer space. Because of course it's still we don't want another Judgment Day. But anyway, this plan goes afoot, and the only survivors is the Mitchells, of course. Who's gonna save the world?
Mitchell!
Yes, the Mitchells. Not a Mitchell, the Mitchell. So, yeah, you can see that a movie that was supposed to be kind of like a road trip, it kind of suddenly turns into cartoon Judgment Day. And I can buy that. It's still a fun premise, so I'm not gonna take it too seriously. All right, let me go through the main some of the characters that appear in this movie. Because technically almost all the characters are really likable. Even the Mitchells are really likable. I like them, and honestly, the voice acting is really good. I must say, they do their job right. Although there is one nitpick that I'll tell you later. First of all, we got Katie. She acts like, like the troubled teen. Well, she's not. They say that she's a teenager, but I kind of doubt teenagers have the age to go to college in this case. She's going to film school. She's with the technology, and well, she's an artist. You can tell that she is very passionate and friendly, and I really like that. In general, that the Mitchells are not exactly trying to emulate kind of like the modern families like the Simpsons or the Smiths or the Griffins. This one, I will say that they're a little bit more kind of like the Family Matters family. But anyway, you can tell Katie is the main protagonist. She does have her own arc, which is involved her relationship with the father. There's also something with the family, but I'll get to that when it's due date. The other protagonist is, of course, Rick. The Rick Mitchell, the guy who wants to do everything for the best of his family. He loves his daughter and everyone else, but again, he is very old-fashioned and very practical in a lot of things. But he's very hesitant on trying out new things in the case of being on the wave of technology, to the point that he is really cartoonishly technologically ignorant. But honestly, you can tell that some of his practicalities are also in very good use, even though in a cartoonish level. So much to the point that for the birthday of each family member, he gives each one of them a screwdriver for their birthday. And let me tell you a funny story, kind of like in a little bit of a sideline. I really love screwdrivers because while I was studying multimedia engineering, I beginning to learn about computers, and one of the best tools that I had is, of course, my computer box, my Windows box. I really like to open the processor, the CPU. I really like them, and the screwdriver, I kind of had this good knack of, unscrewing things. So much that the day I went to Canada for 2D animation studies, I made the huge mistake to put my screwdriver and the other tools on my backpack. So the airport confiscated it. I felt salty, but you know what? It was my fault. It was my fault that I brought a dangerous item in it. So I had it coming. So let me tell you, children, if you're watching this, don't do that. I know that you might feel like that the screwdriver is a great Swiss Army knife that you should carry out everywhere because it's gonna save you some time. But considering in this day and age in which people are really paranoid and really scared that you might carry something really dangerous, please don't do it. Don't even try it. But still, it was kind of cartoonish in this way for this guy. And again, Danny McBride does his job really, really well. Although for some reason, I thought he was Seth Rogen. But it wasn't. It was Danny McBride. Okay, continuing on with the family members. Then we got Linda Mitchell. She's the mother. She's basically kind of like the glue that holds the family and the heart of it. She's basically neutral in the problem that is happening with Katie and Rick. She's all loving. She tries to console her husband. She's also a little bit eccentric, in which she says that she tries to cook the paste cupcakes in a very friendly way because she has more experience on raising children since she's I think she was an elementary school teacher. But basically, she's technically the glue that holds the family. And of course, there is the little brother who he has a great relationship with his big sister. He's a little bit kind of like in an eccentric, but you can tell that he is a kind of like a shy boy. And he has this big fascination to dinosaurs. He really, really loves dinosaurs. And honestly, dinosaurs are cool. I love dinosaurs. I love a good dinosaur movie. But the only thing that kind of nagged me about this kid is that his voice sounds a little bit too mature. It's kind of like he reached puberty really early. And then there's the dog. The dog, again, he's a pug. He is basically kind of like brain dead because he's very derpy. He has these derpy eyes. And basically, this is all the Mitchells. Then we got other characters, like for example, there are the Mitchell's neighbors, who they're also on a field trip, which is a family of three, all dressed in white, almost like they're kind of like yoga masters. They're kind of like the opposites of the Mitchells, but for some reason, I feel like this family, they're a step away from disco dancing. There's also again, I already talked to you about the Eric Andrew character, which is this who is the owner and the CEO of this company that it basically is 100% Skynet. It is everywhere. Even technology is incorporated with its technology, and you see it the symbol of their technology named PAL. It's kind of like a scary thought, which I'll get to that when I get to the themes. Then we get, of course, the villain, which is, of course, the PAL smartphone computer, which has this cute face, but still, it takes over the robots and it takes over the world. And for the first instances, I will say that you feel sympathetic for this character because of how it gets treated at the beginning. And the reason that it is doing, it has a valid reason. Until, without trying to spoil it, her attitude kind of changes, let's say. And this is when this character basically becomes a little bit irredeemable. And another two characters that I might spoil a little, but it doesn't affect too much on an experience because probably it's on the poster, is that during the invasion, two of the robots begins to malfunction. One of the robots begins to call itself Eric, and another robot becomes to call the Borabot. The Borabot kind of sounds like the Mortal Kombat character. It was roboticized. But basically, these malfunction robots become the Mitchell's allies. Without spoiling too much, let's say that these two robots are really great. Basically, their relationship with their Mitchells really becomes really sweet. And with that, I'll put a cap on my character analysis. How many times do I have to say that when I talk about mainstream animated films, it feels really, really pointless to talk about the animation quality, because it's gonna be pretty obvious that it's gonna be good. But like I always said, when there are exceptions to the rule, I can talk about it. And this movie actually has something worth about talking about the animation. Because who is capable of impress me on their animation style?
Mitchell!
Yes. The animation is really stylish and I would say really, really colorful. Not only we got really good character designs, we also get this energy on their movement, on their expressions, making it really wild and also very provocative. I know that is gonna be pretty easy to attract younger audiences, because younger audiences really like anything when it goes wild or bombastic, but adults can also enjoy that. And thanks to that, it makes an hour and 48 minutes movie less of a chore. I didn't even feel it. I was really enjoying all the things that are happening. And I like that they use this kind of style in which it comes moments in which you're gonna see in which they add up in the background, or in some certain moment they add some kind of like this graffiti style drawings, or some kind of like Pictionary style drawings when you want to exaggerate the emotion of the characters. Although it feels a little bit like cheating, but considering how 3D animation can go when it's not used right, this one it earns itself. Sometimes it goes a little bit overboard, but considering the kind of movie that it is, it feels that it earns it. So don't get turned off when suddenly the movie decides to put hearts or rainbows or the characters in kind of like in hand-drawn form, kind of like you're watching it's almost like someone decides to sketch over your work. That's how it feels, and it brings out the charm of the movie. But at the same time, you can notice that a lot of the characters, they have some details that you're gonna be impressed. In my case, I was really impressed on how careful they went on the details of our main character, Katie. Because if you have kind of like an eye, you're gonna notice that she has a kind of like a cut on her nose, and also she has this drawings on her hand, kind of like she took notes on her hand, and it sticks during the rest of the movie that I really admire. What else I can talk about it? Despite this, the music, they use sometimes pop culture music, which I know that is gonna turn off some people because it's basically kind of like an easy trap. But again, considering the movie that it tries to be, I come off as forgiving it. Oh yeah, also in cinematographic levels, I do have to make kind of like a little warning saying that it does have neon light, and sometimes it has some photosensitive moments. But here's the thing. At least their photosensitive moments, it's not exactly all the time, and it's not exactly that bad. It doesn't try to kill you like in the Earth. Man, if you want to stretch it out, okay. Why in the Earth has all this editing? It almost killed me. So thankfully, when I was watching the Netflix warning saying that this movie is gonna have photosensitivity moments, and I was like, uh-oh. But thankfully it didn't go that far. So thank you. Who is not trying to kill me with photosensitive images?
Mitchell!
Now it's time for me to talk about the scenes of the movie. And alongside, I want to mix it up to try now to bring out some of the negative of the movie. I talk negative in order to not exactly overhype a film. But anyway, here goes. You can tell that this movie's theme is mostly about the generational gap between the youngsters and youngsters YouTube era against the old people in the practical old school generation, and how these two clash. Mostly it is shown between the relationship between Katie and Rick, the father and daughter, and basically this becomes the heart of the movie. I know that it comes up a little bit of a cliche storyline. So, but you know what? This is one of those that I can see what they were trying to do. It also comes up a little bit of a sarcasm to this new generation, in which how the world is now really dependent on society, on the technology, how we are very hooked to the world of the internet videos here and there. I mean, because you can tell that everyone is really dependent on smartphones or the computer or Wi-Fi and all these things, even to the more comedic level. Let's say that it comes even to a point in which during the robot invasion, people are like, oh, you know what? This robot invasion they're evil, but they're gonna keep us contained on this honeycomb. But you know what? I don't need to eat or sleep as long as I have my Wi-Fi. It reminded me of that South Park episode. But so yeah, I like where this goes. It doesn't technically hammer you over the head, and I like that it doesn't technically take sides. It doesn't take the side, that being old school is bad or being depending on technology is bad. No, they all have their pros and their cons. The only thing that this movie actually is in a family-friendly, light-hearted version, it tries to tell that despite all this, we should not lose our relation and love and our connections to our family members. And basically, yeah, technology, it doesn't take it away from you. It's depending how you use it and how responsible you are with it. So I'm really okay with that. Another thing about the scenes that it kind of nagged me. Here comes a little bit of one of my nitpicks, in which the whole movie kind of it kind of goes a little bit into this family friendly prevalence, in which even the main character is narrating, and she say, I have probably the worst family ever, the weirdest family in the world. Woman, I know even worse family-friendly cases in which I could consider them the worst family ever. This family is not the Simpsons or it's not the Smiths. I know these are not exactly family-friendly, but considering how the Simpsons is now bought by Disney and how it's being treated, so yeah, I'll call it family-friendly. Sorry. As for weird, honestly, I don't see them as weird. The family seems kind of like pretty normal, I'll say. An old school father. We got a mother that is a little bit naggy. A very artistic and eccentric daughter. A very shy yet dinosaur-loving kid. And, well, maybe the dog is a little bit weird, but I think that for being the weirdest family in the world, it doesn't fit in. And maybe you could have pushed it a little bit more on that behavior if you want me to buy them as weird. But I didn't see them as weird. I see them more like an awkward family. They're just awkward. And there's a thin line between being awkward and being weird. So, although I do appreciate that they say that weird is good, normal is overrated, which I agree. But I think they could have pushed a little bit more on the weirdness level. What else I can say? Oh yeah, let's say that I did like some of the little Easter eggs that you find in this movie. For example, there is a moment in which they go into this dinosaur world, and if you notice closely, the D really looks really similar to the Disney logo. I don't know if this is kind of making fun of them. There is a moment that makes me remember the Y2K episode of The Simpsons. And we got the return of the Furbies in this one. Which, yeah, for pop culture reference, even thought, yeah, those are really cute, creepy little critters. Another thing that I want to that kind of a little bit nags me on this movie is that It's basically our main villain, the PAL computer, the PAL smartphone. Yeah, again, this character really spout out some things that you actually kind of agree because at first she was treated really horribly to the Eric Andre character. He was this guy in which you just want to punch him in the face, and I was thinking that he should be the real villain. But of course, the movie decides to, twist it a little bit. Although, in ways, I was sympathizing with the main villain. The main villain actually made a point in which what is the humanity's worth when they don't exactly feel love. They basically use technology. They take it for granted. So I kind of begin to understand it. But of course, then later the attitude of that character changes so much that yeah, you kind of deserve it. But either way, the movie is sweet enough. It does. There are moments that it does catches your interest and your heart. And I'm glad that when an emotional moment happens, they tone down, with the movie's eccentric nature of having too much sketches or pop culture music or reference or something like that. It just kind of knows when to use it and when not. But either way, I think that this is enough for you to, at least in my part, to give you kind of like a recommendation to this film. And yes, I don't know if I want to say that I highly recommend it because this movie is far from perfect. But I can tell that this movie does things right when it does things right. If you are not into this kind of wild, energetic animation style, a little bit reminiscent to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, a movie that I actually personally like, maybe this is not gonna be a movie for you. But if you want something fun, lighthearted, something that is not as grim as the Terminator movies, I think the Mitchells versus the Machines does its job. In which, well, let's say that we all need kind of like especially a big break, considering the times that we are having. We don't need exactly, movies that are too grim or too dark every single time. They're fine as it is. But I really like it when it takes kind of like a middle ground into it. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Who is responsible to giving me a good, fun, family-friendly film?
Mitchell!